I'm Jim. I'm a 32-year-old father. Sweet. 32-year-old father of two. I'm Jim, a 32-year-old father of two. In 2018, I was in 2018. I was involved in a serious road traffic accident. I was involved in a road traffic accident. In 2018, I was involved in a serious road traffic accident, and I was left with multiple injuries.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to me, Shiva Wilson, and my channel, which as you know is LCUK, which stands for Legalised Cannabis United Kingdom. Now today we're doing the LCUK show. We've got another special guest on. His name is Jim the Meadowman. He's got a TikTok and a YouTube, and we'll get into that in a bit. So Jim, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. Me too. I've just paid off some credit card debt from years ago, so I'm feeling a bit like, I don't know, you know, when you just finally get something off your shoulders, it's kind of good, but then you're also broke at the same time. So
Yeah,
that's how I am.
No, I know the feeling. I've just got a polytunnel, and I feel the same thing. Like, bought something good, but absolutely broke because of it.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Right, so I've got a list of like 11 questions here, mainly to do with cannabis, because that's what the show is about, obviously.
Yep.
And but we're going to kick off by, I wanted to say, can you tell me a bit about yourself that has got nothing to do with cannabis?
Yeah, my name's Jim, and I grow flowers and vegetables.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You grow flowers and vegetables.
Nothing to do with cat. Yeah, I live in a small holding in West Wales. I've got Tourette's. It was the result. It's a rare case called adult onset Tourette's, which was the result of a road traffic accident and significant trauma, basically. So yeah, that was a long time ago now, and I'm well in my way of recovering. And yeah, I run a little small holding flower farm here in West Wales, Pembrokeshire.
Cool, man. So talking about cannabis then, what was your first interaction with or knowledge of cannabis? When did you first get in touch with cannabis or learn about it?
Probably around about 11. It was very widely used in the town I grew up in. And yeah, I knew lots of people who used it myself in my youth, here, there, occasionally, a bit more frequently than occasionally again. You know, I feel like it was a normal Southern England upbringing with cannabis. I feel like most people probably had that similar sort of, it was in your school, you knew your friends were using it, you know, it was readily available.
Okay. So did you do you remember what it was like the first time you used it, for example?
Yes, well, funny enough, the first time this is going to sound terrible, but I'm going to be honest here. The first time I used it, it was my first day of year 7, and my friend's older brother and his mates were having some, and they were like, now you're in big school, you got to have some, or whatever the word. That was paraphrasing, but you know, that was the gist of it. It was like, we did it on our first day, you guys are going to do it on your first day. And me and my 3 buddies from primary school, who had all kind of gone to me buddy's house after school on our first day, yeah, we all got absolutely wasted, and we just spent the night giggling, to be honest. That was one of my more positive experiences, actually, because as my use continued through my younger days, I would say that I started getting negative effects, to be honest with you, which are very different to the effects that I now receive from cannabis.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have any drug education at school or from friends when younger? Did they tell you about drugs, cannabis before you used it?
Well, yeah, obviously there was the talk to Frank. You know,
Yeah.
the old that was I remember that in school. You got the old talk to Frank, and I suppose there was a lot of peers, older brothers, older siblings introducing it. You know, perhaps a friend had a party and their older siblings were on some sort of something or other. You know.
Yeah. So they taught you about it. What was the talk to Frank? Do you remember anything that they said about it? I've heard they passed out leaflets. Sometimes they hand out like a sample of the stuff. Anything like that?
No samples. No, it was just. I remember it being right. I don't actually remember a little bit about it. I call them an accordion pamphlet. A little pamphlet, like if you hold up, it kind of got you unfold it, and then you've got like things on it. At a local youth club, look, we used to go and play on the. It was like some little motorbike game, but at there they would hand it out. So at the youth club, they hand out this pamphlet. And it was like a talk to Frank one, like say no to drugs and all that sort of cannabis reefer propaganda stuff. Yeah.
So did it work?
No.
Okay. So I'm actually interested in what your friends told you about it. Do you remember anything your friends told you about drugs? Because like there was always people in my school who was doing drugs, and it was a sort of mythical thing, because I never actually got onto like ecstasy or anything, but there were people talking about pills, people talking about cannabis. They knew more than the teachers about it, these couple of lads.
Yeah. I mean, that was the same in my school, except I think perhaps more common than what you're describing. I think there was a heavy drug use in my school. You know, especially ketamine, pills, ecstasy, cannabis. They were all very heavily used in the area. And so I suppose a lot of the education was looking. He also, in the area, was one of the first ever and a very famous case of ecstasy deaths. Her name was Leah Betts, and she drank basically too much water while under the influence of ecstasy. And that was actually at the school I went to in Essex. And so I think that there was perhaps a touch of, now thinking about it and these things coming back to me, perhaps a touch of extra throwing it home, if that makes sense. Yes, you cheeky little bastard. Hey. As in, the teachers knew, lots of the teachers that had been at the school a long time obviously knew this person as a student. And yeah. At least there were certainly people in the town who knew her very well. She may not have gone to the school. I don't, I'm going back. I'm 37 now, and I'm going back to when I was 13, 12. So, it's a long time ago, but she was certainly from the area. And so that had national-wide press about this ecstasy overdose. And so I think they were perhaps, that was a perspective I had. You take drugs, you're going to die. Pushed on to me as a kid. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. That's quite deep when someone dies around you. And
I mean, I didn't know. I was a lot younger. It was as I was growing up in the town, some of the older kids, like the 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they knew her. I was 11, 10 at the time, perhaps even younger. But there was people within people I knew, older brothers. It had impacted the town. Let's say that, like, it was on the moral or in the minds of people in the town, because there were vigils there. It got national press. It was a small town. That's that side of things.
Wow. Okay. So moving on to Tourette's. So you have Tourette's syndrome. Can you explain to me what that is and how you developed it? I know you mentioned it a bit earlier, but what is it? How did it happen to you, or whatever?
Tourette's is a neurological disorder in which area the basal ganglia of the brain doesn't work properly and often sends misfire. And that part of the brain is responsible for impulse control and movement. So often it appears like people are shouting, perhaps the intrusive thoughts. That's often what I hear people say, is it intrusive thoughts? But it's not actually like that. They perhaps are, but you have no control over them. So the best way to describe it, and it's not exactly like this, but yes, the best way to describe it is like a sneeze. Right. So you can hold it in, you feel it building up, and then after it's gone, there's a release. It's very similar in that sense, I would say, but different. If that even matters, that's probably the best thing I can describe it to, being similar. And in that, I mean the process of energy building up and the feeling of relief afterwards. Not like it's a sneeze, but so. Yeah, I had tics as a child, which were minor facial squints. I would pull some faces and it looked like I was smiling. And often that would get me in trouble at school because I'd be being told off by a teacher and I'd be smiling. Now, it never went on for more than a year at a time. So I never got a diagnosis as a child of Tourette's because it was seemingly intermittent and not a problem. So then I went through my whole life about it, and at 28 I had a bad car crash, and the Tourette's that obviously was in me, but not extreme, obviously just got released, and I developed severe adult onset Tourette's, which is characterized by extreme tics. It's not just one or two. It's it affected my gait, my speech, my movement. Yes, almost everything about what I am as a person was deeply impacted by the crash and the subsequent development of Tourette's.
Right. Wow. So in the car crash, did you get like an injury or something? Is that what happened? Like, do you get brain damage or something like that? Is that what we're talking about?
So I did get a head injury, and I did get some earaches after. I obviously went through a lengthy court case for everything because I was hit by another driver, and so I was sent to all sorts of experts here, there, and everywhere. So I was really plodded around, and they couldn't determine conclusively that I'd ever had a brain injury, but they couldn't also rule it out because I did have headaches. I did have a lot of issues in the time between the car crash, and I did hit my head in the car crash. So it's unknown, really, but the agreed diagnosis, I suppose, was that it was like a trauma response to the injuries I sustained. In essence, boom.
Yeah, boom. I was about to say boom as well. And I feel it coming. So, so now I'm aware that you're a medical cannabis patient. We are talking about cannabis overall on the channel. So here's a question: when did you first become aware of medical cannabis?
So this all ties into my story, actually. It's quite heavily, the medical cannabis is quite heavily involved in my recovery. Let's add some context here. I briefly mentioned when I was a kid that I smoked cannabis. I found it enjoyable. As I got older, that stopped, and I started finding it panic-inducing. I didn't enjoy the effects, and so it wasn't a thing on my radar at the time. So fast forward to my crash and my subsequent, because it wasn't exactly after the crash. It was probably about 5 months after my crash that my tics came out. And so a few months went past. I'd been going to the doctors loads, and I'd been given all sorts of pills, and the pills would be so strong. I was on such a concoction that if I could not tick, I would just be sitting there unable to really do anything else. I'd be that heavily medicated and sedated that, you know, I've described it as being a prisoner, you know, in my own body. I was unable to really move, and it was just awful. And basically, one of my friends saw a video of a gentleman in either Germany or France. I can't remember. His video is still on YouTube, but I can't remember whether he's French or German. And he had exactly what looked like exactly the same tics as me. He's a gentleman with Tourette's, and he's rolled a joint and he smoked it, and his tics stop. And I'm like, well, I've got to try it. I've got to try this. My mate was like, well, I can bring you some over right now. I've picked it up for you already. I knew you were going to say yeah. He brought it over to me, and I smoked this joint, and I dropped on my floor. My tics stopped. I dropped on the floor and started like crying, man. Like, it was for me. It was a very spiritual moment. It was I'd been in a lot of heartache and a lot of issues, and then I suddenly realised that this thing that I quite loved when I was a kid, that obviously had a breakup with at some point in my life, and then stopped liking it, had this big power to help me. And so from that, I went to look at my wife at the time she's still my wife. We've been together since we were kids. But at the time, my wife said, I want us to go the legal route because we had young kids. We didn't know what was going on. We had this court case over our heads. And as a result, the law had just changed. So my injuries and all my finding out was around about the law changed in 2019. So I was actually one of the first patients in the country. I managed to, I think I was the 12th. So I was a really early adopter of the medical cannabis, and back then it was like £250 for an appointment. It was like a £400 import fee, and it was about £600 for 30 grams. So the costs were crazy. We soon burned through our savings. We sold our car, and that was my first real experience with the medical cannabis. And so obviously as time went on, Project 2021 came about. I joined that, or as one of the founders or starting people. I went to the launch of that, and so I've been a patient now 6 years. So it's been
since it started.
So since it started.
What was the process of signing up then? If it was quite early on, was it a private clinic or did you get it on the NHS?
No, it's still a private clinic. I've tried. I can go on to that in a bit later, but in my NHS attempts, because I have attempted. Yes, you cheeky little cunts, fuck off. I have attempted a few times to go on the NHS in essence. But my first appointment was, they were called the Medical Cannabis Clinics. They then later on changed their name to Life, and they were like the first clinic. You had to fill out all your information. You had to give all your medical history. I think now you just need the summary of care, but back then it was a bit more in detail, and I needed to get a recommendation from my GP to them. So like a letter basically saying he believed cannabis, or she, sorry, at the time, believed cannabis helped me, and that she wished for me to see a private, basically a little something like that. And that was the process then. I then had to go into London, into an appointment on Harley Street, be seen by the doctor. I then had to pay all my money. Then somebody went to Holland to pick it up. So somebody would get on the train from London. That's why you had to pay like £400 import fees. They had to go to Holland, get it, bring it back. Then at customs, they had to declare it and pay a huge fee. And then they got it through and got it to the end customer. And so, yes, it was a difficult process back then. It's much more streamlined now and much more easy. Like, I can go on a website now and I can choose the bits I want. Back then, there was just 2 or 3 strains, all by Bedrocan, the Dutch pharmacist. Basically, they were the available strains, and you could have their sativa, their high CBD, or their indica. Bedrocan, I think it is. Sorry if I'm getting this slightly wrong, guys. My memory's not great. Bedrocan, and that was the first strain I got, and it worked for me. And I've, to be honest, not looked back, and I have been going back to the legacy market as well as getting from because I was let down so often at the start. Like the medical industry right now, I've not been let down in a year. I've had consistent supply for that year. Maybe the odd strain's gone out, but it was improved. Back then, every 2 months, you'd get a stock out for a month. And so in that time, I then had to revert back to the legacy market, and I found some great contacts, great guys, and I get some great smoke from them still to this day. So, it's worked out well for me.
Fair enough. So have you ever encountered any trouble with the law around cannabis?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Trouble. Is trouble the word? I've definitely had an encounter with the law. Right. So a lovely follower of mine sent me 7 grams of lovely wax in the post, free of charge, luckily, but it got intercepted. And then I got a knock on the door from the police saying they'd had a package to me. intercepted in the post. And to be fair, he was absolutely fine with it. Obviously, I just told him that I was a medical patient. He asked to see my prescription because he'd never seen like a physical copy, so I went and got it. He had a look. We had a good chat. He was actually a really nice bloke, and he said, "Okay, we're not going to take this any further. I'll go and close it. I'm happy that someone's tried to send it to you because they thought it would help you." So actually, it was quite a positive experience overall.
Oh, well, I would have been shitting myself if I get a knock on the door from the cops.
I was filming for my YouTube channel. So me and the wife, obviously, we've got a small holding YouTube channel, and I was filming for that. And so the whole interaction is actually on film. Like you can be so nice. I've never shown the footage or anything, but at the start I was a bit like, why? It was only later on I found out that somebody had sent me something. I hadn't known at that point, so I was completely kerfuzzled why this police officer did. Yeah.
Wow. Right, so obvious question now, but how does cannabis, and specifically your prescribed cannabis, help you with your condition and in life in general? You mentioned it a bit already.
I have a really bad gait and speech issue without cannabis, so I think my Tourette's is more on the extreme side of Tourette's, and so if I'm not medicated, it does really impact my everything. So the only answer I can give to this is absolutely everything. It impacts absolutely everything. It gives me life back. It gives me the ability to not be a prisoner in my own body, and I think that's the best way to describe it. And I'm very grateful to the plant. I credit it with my recovery. I credit it with my ability to live my new life. I credit it with so much, and I find it so ridiculous that it's illegal. So
right. So, but do you still get stoned off it as well at the same time as it controlling your tics? Do you feel anything like the high that you used to get when you were a kid, sort of thing, or not?
No, not at all. Not at all. No. This is a strange thing. And I have felt that high again when using wax, right? So using a wax, I can still kind of get to that level. But I would say the baseline that I need, maybe I am getting stoned or affected, but because that is the baseline of me stopping my tics, then it all happened at the same time. So, the answer is more complex than I don't feel the effects. It doesn't impact me, but I perhaps do feel the effects because I don't remember what it was like before the Tourette's anymore. So I only remember what I'm like now, and I'm medicated from the moment I woke up to the moment I go to bed. So I wouldn't say, but I can get there if I use high quantities. Because and Fico oil, for example, somebody once sent me that, and I didn't really know much about it. I put on a tiniest bit on my finger, and I really felt it. I was almost akin to a light dose of mushrooms, I'd say. It was that sort of heavy. I was really and the next morning I woke up and I still felt like that. So Fico, what blew me mind, and that I suppose I had the giggles on that. I felt like I kind of did as a kid, but just with the flower, it's more. And I wouldn't say so. No,
sort of absorbs your tics and all the movement stuff. Absorbs all the flower and
yeah, I'd say it's in my own theory is the cannabinoids are so busy working in my broken endocannabinoid system. There's not much left going to the part of the brain that gets shut. I don't know if that's true. Just a theory.
But I was sort of thinking, if it's been used up for the medical sort of issue within your body, there's nothing left to get you high per se, because it's all been done, for the body system itself.
That's how it feels. That's I suppose how it feels.
Right. So what is Jim the Meadowman all about? You've got a YouTube and a TikTok and a small holding. So tell me all about this, your online presence and your small holding. What's it all about?
So Jim the Meadowman is my handle on Twitter. And that was I made a Twitter account, I don't know, back 2011 or something, around the Brexit time. I was a bit of I saw myself at least as a bit of a political activist. So, I like to go in there and throw in the wind my opinion. And so I'd say that's more of a personal place. It wasn't really to do with, say, what my TikTok and my YouTube is. And that's kind of more about my recovery, my life here on the small holding and the flower farm. And that's more. Yeah, just about that. We were hoping. My sister had been trying to get me to make a TikTok account for a long time, and we had friends keep asking us what we were going to do. So we thought, let's start vlogging. Our friends will be able to keep up with what we do. And then we started vlogging on the YouTube. And then cause my sister was like, well, what's the difference from being on YouTube and being on TikTok? And I was like, well, you kind of got a point. She started running the TikTok account at the start, and the numbers we got were crazy. And so I just kind of thought, oh yeah, it's a good place to find people who are perhaps interested in the flowers and might want to get a bouquet or two here and there. And so it's more of, I'd say, a marketing tool. I think that's the best way. I think if you're a business or an up and coming startup business nowadays, it's good to have in your repertoire people then know who you are and whether, because people aren't going to. We want people to buy our flowers, but part of our flowers is us. You could go and buy mass-produced flowers from Indonesia, shipped in within 24 hours to Asda. No problem at all. But a small flower farm can't compete with that, so you have to add that extra. They have to know where they're coming from. They have to feel part of the journey, and it's been wonderful, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So when you start, because I was looking on your TikTok, and you said something like part of my recovery is we decided to go and set up a small holding and try and get self-sufficiency. So how does that tie in with your recovery and things like that?
Well, basically, I still have the cannabis helps, but I can still have seizures. Now, I don't have them too often, but it can be. I used to have them a lot more. So moving to the small holding is kind of was a way that I could kind of get reactive, back into kind of work, I suppose, without having to endanger myself or anybody else. Right. So we did spend a bit of time training up a really lovely seizure alert dog who unfortunately died, and now we've got another one that we're training up, and so hopefully I'll get back to that level of independence that a seizure alert dog happens, because in essence, then I can go out and work on the land without my wife, who's also kind of has to keep an eye on me normally. And the dog can come and alert the wife if anything happens to me, because, it can just be very dangerous with the nature of things. We're trying to rear our own animals, our own food. Yeah.
So how's it going on there? Because you said you wanted to get self-sufficient within 5 years, and you were saying, I don't think we're going to be able to do it. We've done 3 years now. And how's it? How do you manage the small holding? And what have you got? Pigs, dogs? No, pigs, cats. I know you've got pigs.
We had pigs. So the pigs are now gone. We just had them processed into
sausages.
Sausages, bacon, hams, gammon, all those sort of things. And we also rear goose, guinea fowl, turkeys and chickens for our own meat. Next year we're going into sheep to get milk and cheese. And overall, at the moment, we're probably eating 100% of our own food right now, but we haven't quite got to getting a year's worth. And I think we'll be able to get to 90%. But there's some things like wheat berries. So we mill our own wheat, but wheat berries are quite difficult to grow. And the amount of space you need to get the amount you need is actually probably not worth it. So we found a local farmer just down the road who does wheats. We found another one who we're going to do a pig for them. They're going to do a cow for us. So we're kind of hoping that actually that while we might be able to get 90% on our holding, we may be able to get 10% with trades or favours from local neighbours and stuff. So when I said I don't think we'll be able to do it, I think it would be very difficult to have the variety that we're used to. In the modern world, you're so used to variety and stuff that we could grow food. We could eat pork every day. We could eat chicken every day. We could eat carrots and potatoes. But the truth is we all like a bit more variety and stuff, and so the cheeses, the yogurts, that's probably the 10% at the moment. So we're hoping to get there, but it's been a challenge. Obviously, we live with my disabilities, which can be a challenge at times, and I don't want to sound like this is a negative because I feel so blessed. I absolutely love what we do, but it's hard work. Yeah, it
And
is
veg
hard
as
work.
well? Veg? You make your own veg?
Yeah, we do all our own veg. Yeah. Tomatoes, peppers, onions,
Right.
garlic.
Mhm.
So over the last sort of, I don't know, 2 weeks, I've probably planted 500 cloves of garlic and 1,000 onions. So
Wow.
we've got about 3,000 tulip bulbs to get in next week. So or tomorrow, not next week, Tuesdays. It's next week now. So tomorrow. So there's loads going on all the time, and we're trying to set up this flower farm. We're trying to set up a business where we grow flowers. Yeah, we both love flowers. Yeah, I love all the flowers. Yes, ganja. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I agree with the last statement, indeed. So with regard to cannabis, do you want the status quo, what we have now? Do you want decriminalization, legalization, or some other outcome? And what does that look like to you? What do you want to see in cannabis laws?
I would like, in an ideal world, and I'm probably got extreme views here. So, but I would like the same rules to apply to cannabis that apply to cucumbers or tomatoes. That's kind of my position. Like, maybe alcohol. If you brew your own alcohol, you're not allowed to sell it. I think if you grow your own, you're not allowed to sell it. But other than that, like, my argument is, and this is kind of my core principle, is everything is bad for you in one way or another. And everybody is going to have some things that don't agree with them. And I don't see anybody asking to ban cars, which cause so much pain and suffering to me. And I would never want to buy in cars because one has caused so much misery to me that I don't accept the principle that some people cannabis is bad for, therefore it should be illegal and a banned substance. I just can't accept that as a principle. So as a position, I feel like I'm one of none of those would satisfy me really until there is no penal penalties for cannabis, because it's a plant that helps so many people and it's got so many uses that an assault on it is an assault on human freedom, in my opinion.
Amen. Yeah. So how do you view our cannabis laws in the UK?
Backwards, controlled. Our cannabis laws were the same as America's to begin with. It was a way to police fought and grab some control of the cultural revolution of the 70s. You all of a sudden you were able to arrest the free thinkers and the hippies who were causing more people to kind of open their eyes, anti-war, anti-establishment. And so I feel like that cause was adopted by our government, and over the years they've used it as a way to scapegoat communities, as a way to keep a political pressure on it. Once you understand, for me especially, the lies and propaganda they've used against cannabis, there can only be a negative agenda behind it, because it's never... for example, and this might be conspiracy theory talk here, but for example, if you want to have money for government programs, like, the CIA are famous for it, they'll use money that they've made from nefarious means to fund stuff that they perhaps couldn't get public funding for. And I certainly think the tax on medical cannabis, when UK, back in 2010, when British Sugar first got their license, for a good 10 years, Britain made a nice chunk of tax from the sale of medical cannabis globally. And I think they've known the power of this plant for a long time. You've got recordings from 9,000 years ago in China, or 8,000 years ago, perhaps. So they've known the benefits of plant. Sorry, my little one's just screaming. Yeah, and so I think our laws are completely about control. They're not about what's good. They are about narrative and control, and yeah, they're the implement to control on so many other strategies. If you can say and turn blue into yellow, you get to control your population, and managing to turn cannabis from a healing plant to this scary reefer madness type esque campaign that they've gone on for a long time, which we still have in Britain today.
Still going
Often,
on, yeah.
yeah, they often, as soon as there's violence, they often blame it on cannabis. Whereas these accusations that cannabis causes violence, yes, you cheeky little cunts, are easily proven uncorrect now in areas where, say, cannabis use is lower, that has higher violence, say, areas of the Middle East, for example. The sorry, the propaganda and the reasons that they say why we must keep cannabis illegal, to me, are so baffling that the only logical conclusion is that it's designed to control us. They don't want access to medicine. They want access to the healthcare system. That's kind of my position. Boom.
So that's sort of my next question was, why do you think they haven't legalized it yet, in your opinion?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the same answer. I'd go as far as saying that legalizing something that should never have been illegal takes grown-up politics, and that is something that we don't have, because to actually then be like, because what are the implications if they legalize it? Well, the implications are every sick and disabled person that they've sent to prison for growing their own since the 70s is morally bankrupt. And it takes governments a long time to admit those sort of failures, and I think the war on drugs is a big classic example of that, where governmental failure, failed control of markets, it highlights so much stuff, but ultimately a lot of good people have gone to prison for doing not much wrong, and no victim, no crime. There's no victim, there should be no crime.
And obviously there's been a big wave of legalization going around the world at the moment, and it's like Britain's a bit running behind on that. Do you think we're a bit stuck in the past still?
I think we have a lot of powerful lobbies and powerful industryists. We have a massive tobacco lobby in the UK still to this day. That's powerful in Parliament. We have a big paper lobby that's powerful in Parliament. We have big pharma that's powerful in Parliament. And other nations don't seem to have this lobbyist culture that Britain is so famous for. Lots of politicians start their careers as lobbyists. So, we have a culture of lobbying in the UK. And my opinion is, once America and other legal countries, if America's banking law, for example, changes, I think you'd see rapid changes in Britain, because the lobbyists would come to town and our politicians are easily bought. Boom! You fucking press!
Yeah, definitely. Wicked. So do you believe in, and I think I know the answer to this question somewhat, do you believe in any form of spirituality or God?
Yes,
or God?
I do believe in God. I am a non-religious Christian, so I enjoy the teachings of Jesus. I do read the Bible every day, but I'm not a preacher, and I wouldn't push that on anybody. But they are my current, and I say current beliefs is because I feel like I went on that spiritual journey alongside cannabis when I found this powerful plant that could take away my ills, and I think that led for a more deeper searching of life, and I had more time available to me. Yes, as not being able to work anymore. You do have more time, I guess, to ponder on the philosophical questions, and that's where it led me. And everybody's path might be different, but that's the path that I went on, and that's where it led me.
Would you say you've ever had like a spiritual experience on cannabis? Or
the first time, obviously, that was spiritual. That was probably it. That time where I could realise that this plant could take away a lot of my suffering. That was a very spiritual moment.
Wicked. Well, that's all my questions done, my good sir. So, is there anything else you wanted to sort of get across to people? How do we find you on YouTube and TikTok, for example?
Yeah, if you want to find me on YouTube and TikTok, it's Fields and Flocks on both of them. I think my handle might be on TikTok, Tickins with Chickens, but my username is Fields and Flocks. And then I wanted to challenge you, Shiva. You'd put up at a post recently, you said that Amsterdam was the highest you've ever been. And I'm saying you need to try some FICO, because if you think, if you think that's the highest you've ever been, you're going to be in for a treat, because FICO is another level. It's a handle with care if you can get hold of some. But
what even is it? I've not even heard of this.
Full
FICO.
extract cannabis oil. So it's basically a paste. They extract all the terpenes, all the cannabinoids, and they make it into a paste. It doesn't taste particularly nice, but you only need like a tiny bit, and it really works quite well. And if you can find some, they use it a lot for cancer patients. You know, there's quite a lot of underground organisations that make this stuff for cancer patients, and I was kindly gifted mine in the post when I tried it. But I would say, yeah, you've definitely, if you've not tried that, you haven't been the highest you've ever been from cannabis. Therefore, you should start using again.
Right. Okay. I think I need to come and visit you on your small holding at some point. There's you do Wales, isn't it?
Yeah, Pembrokeshire. So as west coast as it is, we're basically a stone's throw from the ocean here. So.
Oh wow! There's another person in Wales who I might have to meet up with at the same time, so I'll try and maybe come over and see a few Welsh people at the same time. Anyway, that's it. That's it for the interview, man. So let me just do my ending spiel. So everyone, thank you very much for watching. This has been the LCUK show with Jim the Meadowman, or Fields and Flocks. Is that right? Fields and Flocks?
Yeah, it's what? Fields and Flocks.
Fields and Flocks. So check him out on YouTube and TikTok if you've got TikTok. Obviously we're on YouTube here, so quickly go and have a look at him right after this. I'd say Fields and Flocks. Yeah,
that's it.
And,
it's small holding content, so it's about small holding.
Yeah, it's good fun. And so like I just want to say thank you for you, Jim, for coming along. And for everyone else, we will have more LCUK shows. If you want to get on the LCUK show yourself and talk about your experiences with cannabis or your knowledge of cannabis, do message me through the comments, or you can find me on X at Shiva Rama Vishnu. So that's it. LCUK show over and out. Thanks very much for watching. See you on the next one. Good night.